So hello, welcome, namaste. It's nice to come back. And what I just shared with you really is more than any talk could give. You don't talk about divine things. They're impossible to understand. You can only experience them, become them. That's the mystical path. Impossible for a human mind to understand. You could read 1,000 books on spirituality, the most profound quotes, and still not experience what you're reading. Mysticism is about directly knowing that I am, that there is only God, that the divine is shining through everything, everywhere. How do you ignite that direct experience? How do you know it? Or some people say, how do you awaken that reality within you from going from human being to divine being? Chasm of a difference. Humans are so tiny. A good comparison would be the ocean compared to a wave. And the little wave thinks that it's independent from the ocean. And little does it know that it's actually the entire ocean. It's just it hasn't realized that, so it feels separate. Similarly, we could be like little waves of God. But we only focus on our little tiny world through our mind's vision, through our mind's outlook, which is a filter, of course, right? How we were brought up as kids, our family, our society. So that's what we become, however our mind is programmed. Normally, we're programmed with limitations. You get into school and people teach you how to feel separate from others. I'm here and you're there. And so that's sort of the first illusion, is the feeling of separation. Me and you. It's the biggest illusion. And so living in that tiny little human bubble, it would be like a soap bubble. You know, you've seen the soap bubble. Such a thin layer between the air inside the soap bubble and the rest of the infinite air. All you have to do is pop that soap bubble and you merge with the infinite air. It's like that too. So how do you break the soap bubble? Some people call it the ego. Ego is feeling of separation. How do you break through that? Well, the reading was like really amazing to explain that. All the stories that we create around ourselves and limitations. So every day, we travel the spiritual path trying to break through our conditioning. I sometimes talk about little things that you could do during the day. As an example, this sounds funny, but when you get up in the morning and you brush your teeth, maybe normally you brush your teeth with your right hand. So today you brush your teeth with your left hand. Do you see how that's a subconscious pattern that's happening every single day? It's programmed. This is just the way I do it. Another good example. Person who comes to the gathering here today and normally sits in the back because it's safe. Now you sit in the front. It's very risky. But that's a breakthrough, a subconscious pattern and a fear. Every time we break through those little tiny things, we create more openness in our being for the light to arise. It would be like emptying ourselves of all of our patterns and habits and worries and fears, emptying it. And then when there's space, that's when light can arise and awaken. That's when you chant the mantra Om Namo Suryaya, where it sends you into an experience of infinite light. Not just the sun up in the sky. Probably the first god that was worshipped on this planet was the sun, don't you think? Probably. It's the biggest thing in the sky. It seems like the most powerful. So we would worship it, of course. And still, we as cultures do. I myself have been. Ever since I met, you can see the picture of Swami Purna there. If you can see it on, I know you can't. Ever since I met him, I started to really appreciate the sun. And you know why? Because this being represents the infinite sun. And so when he shared with me this sort of transmission, this sort of divine transmission of the sun, and I started to do some of the practices, such as what we just did, I had an experience of sort of merging with the sun. And it's not the physical sun. What empowers that physical sun keeps going, doesn't it? Keeps shining, it doesn't seem never goes out. But what's the sun behind the sun? That's the real power that we need to understand and attune to. So he gives this mantra, Om Namo Suryaya. I bow to the sun that is within me. So that divine sun or that spiritual sun is within me. Every time I say it, I activate the realization of I am infinite light over and over and over again. It's a very, very powerful practice. So, there have been like weeks at a time that I would go through what you would call Surya Anustan. Anustan means concentrated practice on a particular deity. So I would do sun practices. And so that's why I wanted to share with you today something really powerful that you could connect to on a sort of deeper level and understand the sun from a spiritual level instead of just a physical level. If you don't like to do, let's say, meditations, then just do Surya Namaskar and yoga. Does anyone do Surya Namaskar? Raise your hand if anyone does. Oh, now's the time. We should all get up and start doing some asana poses. Yoga. This is the time. Learn how to do Surya Namaskar. The bowing, the acknowledging of the sun through yoga asana. I was doing it this morning. Got up. The sun's so beautiful, by the way. And Ann Arbor, it's incredible. Have you seen it? Yeah. First thing in the morning, golden light. You stand at the sun and you do your yoga poses facing and you ask to merge with the spiritual sun. That's the whole point of yoga. I mean, it's good for spiritual or good for physical exercise, of course. But each pose that you do is designed to invoke the energy of that pose. So if you're doing Surya Namaskar, Surya Sun pose, each time you do a pose, your hope is to feel a little bit of more sunlight within you. That's the idea of yoga. This is the whole mystical path. I want to become one with the universe, everything. I want to find the self of the universe, the truth of oneness. I want to feel one with you and 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 the chair and the floor and the air. I want to experience no difference. And so difficult when we walk around all day in fear and worry and judgment, because we look at outside appearances and automatically make judgment, don't we? I love the way you look. You look friendly. I'll give you a hug. You know, and we see then, I don't know, I remember going to, staying with someone at a hotel in New York City. And I was doing my laundry in the laundry room, and there were a couple other people there. And there was a cockroach that was running about on the floor. And I dropped my laundry and I started running after the cockroach. Finally, I picked it up, I held it, and I put it outside, and it ran away. And there was a guy who was watching this kind of madness. And he was shocked. He couldn't believe that someone would do that. But if the cockroach is your own self, then you're going to rescue the cockroach as well. Other people will have mental ideas of, oh, the cockroach looks dirty, and therefore stay away, and therefore never feel enlightenment on the cockroach path. Miss that boat. You see? That's how we separate ourselves from God. Thinking that God is not in the cockroach. God is a holy saint, but not in the scorpion or the, anything that we sort of resist. So, not to say that you should go home and start searching for cockroaches and kissing them or something like that. You don't become insane by the spiritual path, but you really feel that oneness, and that's how true compassion is created. When you and that creature are one, that's true compassion. I mean, even in the Bible, Jesus describes the ultimate compassion of, my Father and I are one, right? God and I are one. So having that realization, compassion simply means you are me and I am you. So naturally there's going to be an outreach. You don't have to think, should I save that cockroach? I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I like it or not. I don't know if it deserves it. Just an immediate knowing, that's myself. And the amazing thing about the mystical path is when you have the realization of, like, say, this oneness, then you will have a transmission of that. When you walk around, people will feel that energy from you. That's how a person becomes a so-called spiritual teacher, because they're embodying the teachings that they're promoting. Walk around and other people are affected by your energy because all you see is God. So that's an automatic transmission that happens. So what happens usually is you meet a guru, you recognize the guru is profound, it has this sort of divine fragrance about him or her. You hang out with the guru and you try to, through osmosis, feel the energy of the guru. Feel the divine presence, and it rubs off on you. Slowly but surely, the disciple becomes like the guru. The guru is never saying, I'm higher than you, and you're lower than me. Therefore, you should do what I tell you to do. The guru only sees God. This is why we worship those gurus. Jesus and Ram and Krishna and Buddha, we worship them because they're living in a different plane of existence that we dream of, that we hope to reach. So I've spent so much of my time trying to attune to the energy that he's sharing. Every day asking, please help me to merge with the consciousness of the Satguru. That's a big practice. And I'm going to tell you a secret. Even better if you fall in love with the Guru. This is why Christianity is so powerful, because some people will actually fall in love with Jesus. And I'll tell you, when you fall in love with someone, you can't get them out of your mind. Anyone ever fallen in love? Some people maybe, and you will go to the ends of the earth for that person who you love. So if a Christian falls in love with Jesus, day and night, they're thinking about him. And every time you think about the Guru, you become more and more like them. It's that simple. I know it sounds way, way too simple. But that energy of that being rubs off on you and it pushes out all your darkness. Now you will have to face your darkness. That's true. That's the hard part. Sometimes I forget about that part because I think, floating in meditation and love and joy and peace, how fantastic. I love spirituality so much. But you will have to face your demons, your issues, your fears, your worries. That's why those times, I'll give you like an example of a fearful time on our planet. A couple of years ago, where there was this virus called COVID, right? So many people were in fear and making decisions based upon fear, right? So, wow, it would take an enlightened being to remain fully in the consciousness of the divine. No fear. Whether this body gets COVID or not, I'm okay. It's my time, it's my time. Sort of a complete surrender. So many people, though, shrinking. I'm scared. I'm getting smaller and smaller. This is ego. I'm so small because I'm so scared that I might die. So I'll tell you another secret. I reveal secrets. I don't know if they're secrets or not. You're not this body. Bodies come and go. But I am. So you are the eternal soul that was never born and will never die. So whether COVID hits or not, it means nothing. So free. So I go back to, how do you reach that state of soul consciousness? First of all, children tend to be way more open to spiritual energy than adults. Adults are so shut down. You can just see it in their face. I love to meditate in the eyes of a baby because they don't have any fear. They're just gaga goo goo. Just happy to be here, you know what I mean? Whereas we humans have gone through so much like difficulty and challenge, we start walking around kind of like sad and depressed. And pretty much, I would say most people have a low-grade depression. I've had it for years. At some point, through connecting to the sun energy, every single day, on and on and on. By the way, I still do. I connect to the sun god. At some point, that depression lifts. And then what happens? Eternal happiness. Eternal, what's that movie? Eternal sunshine of the soul? What's that movie? Endless sunshine everywhere I walk. Then I will call it as the sunlit path. So connecting to that spiritual energy which is beyond this 3D manifestation. Learning how to attune to that as much as we can throughout the day. Lisa, who I'm staying with, works on a little house nearby and paints things and stuff in the garage and is listening to chanting music while she's working. It kind of reminds me of this, the dwarves and whistle while you work. But listening to spiritual music while I'm doing my activities. If I'm driving to Ann Arbor to get here, let's say hours, I'm listening to different chants and trying to absorb the energy while I'm driving. So then, if someone cuts me off while I'm driving, it doesn't really matter. I'm so absorbed in my spiritual connection. I just wave to the person, have a good day. Some people, they get road rage, so angry. I guess I don't really want to live like that. I don't want to live in depression and anger and worry and fear. Does anyone really? I mean, maybe people get addicted to those emotions. But if you could feel the difference of the three-dimensional world versus living the sunlit path, you'd be running towards God, sprinting. You'd be so excited. So how do you get out of the, what do you would call illusion? I wish I had that sheet, this one right here. On this song it says, the spell I'm under is the universe. So profound, it is a spell. How do you break that spell? In the Vedic tradition, it's Maya, illusion. Maya, your mind that creates the universe, breaking through the spell called the universe. So I just wanted to conclude by saying, in order to break through that spell, instead of kind of slogging along in the material world, we can make effort every day to tune in to these higher frequencies, reach higher spiritual states, and overcome all of our suffering, ultimately forevermore. That is a worthy cause, and that is the mystical path. So thank you so much for having me. Namaste.